Okay, you've definitely heard of this book. It's an absolute classic for a reason. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. But what is it that makes its advice so powerful, even today? Well, we're going to break down the core principles that have been changing lives for decades.
Carnegie's whole idea was honestly pretty revolutionary. He basically said that your technical skills will only get you so far. The real key to success, the thing that truly sets people apart, is mastering the art of dealing with other people. It's not just about what you know. It's about how well you can lead, persuade, and get people excited.
And get this, these principles weren't just theories he cooked up. Nope, they were developed over 15 years of intense research. He literally studied the lives of history's greatest leaders, from Julius Caesar all the way to Thomas Edison, to figure out what made them tick.
So in this explainer, we're going to break it all down into three main parts: the basics of handling people, how to get them to see your way of thinking, and finally, how to be a real leader. Then we'll get to the single most important idea in the whole book.
All right, let's start with the absolute fundamentals of human interaction. You've got to master these before you can do anything else.
Carnegie had this great saying, if you want to gather honey, don't kick over the beehive. The beehive here, that's a person's pride. The point is, criticism is useless. It just puts people on the defensive, hurts their ego, and almost never creates any real change. And to prove this, look at the story of Two Gun Crawley, a famous killer. While he was cornered by 150 police officers, he wrote a note saying, "Under my coat is a weary but a kind heart." I mean, think about that. If a killer sees himself as a good person deep down, what do you think the average person feels when you criticize them? This example just shows it perfectly. The old-school boss who just barks orders gets people to follow the rules, sure, but they're not happy about it. But the leader who uses the Carnegie way, who shows a little empathy, gets real cooperation without making anyone resentful. So if criticism doesn't work, what does? Well, to answer that, Carnegie says we have to tap into a really basic human drive, something that motivates pretty much everything we do. That's it, right there. More than almost anything, people just want to feel important. They want to be appreciated, recognized, and feel like they matter. If you can give them that feeling, you've found the key. I mean, this desire has shaped history. It's why a poor kid named Lincoln studied law books he found in a barrel. It's why George Washington wanted a super grand title. It's even why millionaires have funded entire expeditions just to get a mountain named after them. Tapping into that is way more powerful than criticism. Okay, let's move on. How do we take these ideas and use them to actually persuade people and get them on our side?
You can't win an argument. Yeah, you heard me. Carnegie is super clear about this. The best way to win an argument is to just avoid it. Why? Because even if you prove you're right, you've hurt the other person's pride. You've lost their goodwill. So you win the point, but you lose the person.
You know, Carnegie tells this story about a salesman, Patrick O'Hare, who just loved to argue with customers and prove them wrong. The problem? He wasn't selling anything. It's the perfect illustration of that idea. Winning a debate is usually a pretty empty victory.
But what if you're the one who's wrong? Well, there's actually a kind of superpower in admitting it right away. It's totally disarming. The second you admit you messed up, the other person's instinct is to be more forgiving. It stops the fight before it even starts.
And that leads to another big idea. Always start friendly. You know that old fable about the sun and the wind? They were arguing about who could get a guy's coat off. The wind blew as hard as it could, but the man just held on tighter. Then the sun came out and shone warmly, and the man just took his coat off. Gentleness always wins over force.
All right, let's bring these ideas together and see how they apply to the biggest challenge of all: being a leader who can actually change people's behavior without making them angry or resentful. Okay, here is one of the most simple but powerful tips in the entire book. When you're giving feedback, just swap the word but for and. I mean, think about it. The second you hear the word but, it just cancels out all the praise that came before it, right? But changing it to and, that turns a criticism into an encouragement. It's a tiny change with a huge impact. A real leader makes people want to get better. And they do that by always starting with sincere praise, by talking about their own mistakes first, and, this is a big one, always letting the other person save face. Damaging someone's dignity is just bad leadership, period. So you can see how it all clicks together. Being able to win people over to your way of thinking, by being friendly, by not arguing, that's the foundation of real leadership. It's how you guide people without creating all that resentment that just ruins relationships. Okay, so after all of these stories and techniques, what's the one thing that connects it all? What's the single big idea at the heart of this book?
The secret is a total shift in how you see things. Our first instinct is always to think about what we want. But the real path to influence is to stop thinking about what you want and start thinking about what the other person wants and how you can help them get it. Carnegie tells this great little story about the philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson trying to get a calf into a barn. He was pushing and his son was pulling, but the calf wouldn't move. Then their housemate came out. She didn't use force, she just knew what the calf wanted. She put her finger in its mouth, and as it suckled, she gently let it right into the barn. And that, right there, is the most important lesson in the whole book. Every single principle we talked about, from avoiding criticism to praising people, is just a way of doing this. And that's why these ideas still feel like magic all these decades later. But you know, the real power isn't in just knowing this stuff, it's in actually doing it. So the last question is really for you. Which one of these ideas are you going to try out first, and who are you going to try it on? Just remember to see things from their angle. Thanks for watching.